Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. New battleground state polling released today from multiple outlets reveals the race between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris is this tight. It's a super duper tight. Oh, it's as tight as ever. How could it be so tight? But it is. The Washington Post shows Pennsylvania, what are you doing? Essentially tied. While the latest New York Times Siena poll has Harris up 4 in Pennsylvania, but that remains unchanged from last month. So it's not like a bump. Most of these within the margin of error. We don't know what's going to happen. That's the bottom line. There appears to be zero debate bump for Kamala Harris, maybe like a teeny tiny grain of salt. I mean, like it's really nothing. And on the campaign trail, President Trump held a huge rally in New York. What's he doing in New York? New York's not in play. What's happening? Plus an appearance on the comedy news show Gutfeld, which is so fun. Love Greg Gutfeld. While Harris unveiled a new accent. Yes, she's Latina now, or is it Latinx? While speaking to members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. We're going to get to it all and much more today with the fellas from the Ruthless program. Josh Holmes, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, and the man known to his minions as Comfortably Smug. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you. That someone, somewhere, has stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is in fact a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. It's called house stealing, according to the FBI, and it's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name, and then they take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. And by the time you find out the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to try to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use the promo code MEGYN, Megyn, for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan. That will help make sure you're not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com, or just use the link below. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks for having us, Megyn. Great to see you.
So much goodness in store for you. She's Latinx now. Are you aware of Kamala Harris's Latinx? Let's just look at that. We'll start there. It's as good a place as any. SOT 3 to kick things off.
Oh, it's good to see so many friends. I love you back.
She sounds like Hilaria Baldwin. Why does she do this? Why? You know, I'll tell you what I think. She's an actress. She's playing a part. We don't know who this person is. You cannot trust her. We don't know how she'll legislate or how she'll behave or who she is or what's at her core. So she's just this chameleon who changes in front of whatever audience she's before. And that's really scary because there will be very strong, powerful people around her, should she get in the White House, pushing their agendas on her. And we have no clue who those people are. What do you guys make of it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's like it was the old Culture Club song, the comma, chameleon. I mean, that's basically what she's got going on. And the funny thing is you put her in any crowd, and she basically just tries to reflect back what it is that they want to hear, right? But the problem is she's not even really very good at that. And we were talking about this on our show this morning, is every question, it doesn't matter. She puts about 4 sentences together to buy time, you know? And what did you say, Doug? It was like the verbal equivalent of...
Yeah, it's like trying to fill the word count on a term paper. Yeah, but it is sort of unclear. And the longer this all goes on, I'm more unsure than ever. Is like whether she is a communist and what she said in 2019 is what she actually believes, or whether she's a nihilist and she literally will just say anything because she believes nothing. And that's really the scariest thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, it might be a combination. She certainly will do absolutely anything to get her a little further down the road, right? And if it means trying to consolidate base Democratic constituencies, she's going to be what she wants to be. She has to win a general election. All of a sudden, all the positions she's taken over the last 15 years, we're not even going to answer about.
Yeah, I mean, you got to respect at least the brazenness of it all.
It is pretty. Yeah,
it's like she's a true politician's politician. She is like the anti-Trump. Like Trump is very bad at being a politician sometimes when he needs to be. Like he is who he is, and he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. That's why people love about him. Yeah. And she's the inverse of that.
Yeah.
You had yesterday Kamala Harris to the NABJ. When you are bestowed with a microphone, there is this concept of public trust. To then understand what the public trust means, it means that you have been invested with trust. And I will give you today's edition of the Kamala Harris inanity in SOT 4.
But don't necessarily have the resources to do everything their child needs. I grew up understanding the children of the community are the children of the community.
I mean, you're right. You're right. Oh, God. It's so bad. I mean, look, like it's so bad that it really does feel like it's a fictional comedic set.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. And she also does this thing. I'm sure you guys have noticed it, where she sort of slows her cadence so that she sounds authoritative, even though she's not really saying anything. She's like that person who is the boss in your office, and you're sitting in a meeting and everybody sitting there is like, why is this person in charge again? And they just slow down because they think what they're saying is somehow meaningful, and everybody is texting about what an idiot they are.
Except heavy HR vibes.
Heavy, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not, you don't get a lot of that on the C-suite. Heavy HR vibes on that.
That's totally true. But she really, I think she thinks like she is some sort of authority, you know, like if she slows
down
and if she adds the appropriate filler, you know,
yeah, exactly,
she adds that a lot too, right? Doesn't she?
Yeah.
But like, but then we can be unburdened by what has been, you know? Anyway, she's more in love with the sound of her own voice and her accomplishments than we even knew. This surfaced earlier online, and then we went back and just took a dive. And she's been saying this over and over for years. Here's a little piece of what Kamala Harris thinks about Kamala Harris, SOT 43.
I was the first person to be a woman Attorney General of California. I was the first woman to be elected District Attorney of San Francisco. I was the first person of color to be elected Attorney General of California. Whatever. First. Welcome to the Role Model Club. It's tough.
Boy.
Being a part of the Role Model Club means being in a room where sometimes you may be the only person who has had the experiences you've had.
Oh, my Lord.
The best part of that clip, Megyn, is the crowd's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Nobody laughs. No one. That was Jan 16. We found at least 4 more in like 2 minutes. We did a search. She loves this phrase. She is the role model. She's in the role model club. Why again? Because of her lady parts and her skin color. That's truly what she's saying. Yeah. Look, I have a vagina and I have the following skin tone. Yay for me.
Like
no wonder people felt uncomfortable.
It's like an elevator pitch, but also with vocal fry. Like she's like, I didn't notice that until you played it, Megyn. But like when she's like feels weird about the things she's saying, sometimes she adds in kind of this vocal fry. Like she's somehow straining to say the thing. Like to your point, she is this well practiced, and she has said it thousands of times, but she pretends like it's the first time she's just thinking of it.
Yeah. It's like fake emotion.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, have you seen that clip online where it shows her like, I'm from the middle class, I'm from the middle class, I'm from the middle class. I'm a prosecutor. As a prosecutor, I'm a prosecutor. My opportunity economy, like she's got her lines like an actress and she delivers them. We don't have any idea who this person really is, but we have some clues from 2019 when she actually had to say some policy positions and run for office on her own. And she's about as far left as they come. Everything other than that, we have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, well, to me, I think Kamala Harris kind of embodies the very cynical, nihilistic completion of where the Democrats have been headed for a while. Like right now, everyone in this country is asking who's running the country. We only see Joe Biden sitting on the beach. It's because Democrats have come to accomplish what they've always wanted, just an administrative state that runs itself, that spends taxpayer money, that makes sure them and their groups get all their pockets stuffed with taxpayer cash. They've tried to buy votes by having student loan forgiveness. You name the green program. They spent, what, $55 billion on rural broadband, and not one person has gotten internet as a result of it?
Yeah.
$20 billion to build these electric vehicle stops, not a single one to show for it.
Yeah, it's like the policy agenda is just the window dressing for their ultimate agenda, which is just power.
It's just power.
Yeah. And so Kamala Harris fits perfectly into that. She, in her own mind, thinks, oh, I'm in charge here. I'm the boss. And meanwhile, they're just like, have that idiot read a couple lines, and I think we can make it through November.
Yeah, she's exactly right, though. She's mentioning the thing that did get her ahead, to be honest. You know, I mean, she's exactly right. She knows those two things work. And so once they get her next role, her job is to then turn around and say, I mean, normally you don't say, I'm a role model. Look at me. Everyone sees me as a role model. Okay, but that's kind of right on brand. Look at all the things that I have. My lady parts, my skin tone, and in case nobody told you, I'm your role model. Okay. So, all right. So we're being gaslit by her, by the people around her, and pretty much by all top Democrats. Nancy Pelosi gives an interview and gets asked about the absence of a primary, the fact that this woman, who could be our next president, has never received a single vote from an actual regular voter to be president. And here's what she says.
You had reportedly said you wanted a sort of an open primary if Joe Biden stepped down. Did you change your mind because you saw all the excitement around Kamala Harris?
No, I didn't change my mind. We had an open primary and she won it. Nobody else got in the race because she was politically astute and that was the thought.
Well,
that was Claudia Goba from
Soviet Union.
Go ahead.
The Soviet Union had tons of elections, just no one else would run.
Right.
And Kim Jong-un with those holes in one.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they look us in the face and lie to us like Chuck Schumer. It was bottom up. It was ground up. Even Gavin Newsom was like, it was bottom up, right? That's what they told me I'm supposed to say. She's bold-faced. Yeah. What do you mean? It was an open primary. She won it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. They laugh about it. It's because, we've said this on the show a number of times, is that essentially the Democrats don't believe in anything, any ideas that might separate people. They just believe in hierarchy, right? And they like rubbing it in the face of everyone. And so Nancy Pelosi has been walking around everywhere for the past couple of months being like, that's right, I pick who runs around this town.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, look, we are sort of cynical. Obviously, we've been in this line of work for a while. And so when you look at debate answers or answers to the few journalists that she appears in front of, and they ask her about something like inflation, and she goes into this stem winder about growing up a middle-class child, and then, whatever she can do to fill time to get out of that answer, because obviously she's responsible for the inflation the American people have suffered through. If you were running for president for the right reasons, if you're just wanted to be president because you think you can do some things for the American people, wouldn't it bother you to be presiding over inflation like that? Wouldn't you want an answer? Like, much less surviving the debate and trying to provide, some electoral edge against your opponent. Wouldn't it be important to you to do something about it? Like, wouldn't it be important to have a border plan? Mm-hmm. Like, all the things that have sort of beset our country as a result of the administration that she serves in, you would think if you were running for president, you'd be like, yeah, we screwed a lot of that stuff up. I want to do something different. Let me explain it to you. That would be a real candidate.
Yeah, well, you'd also be bothered that you were anointed because Joe Biden's dementia showed up on national television. You didn't actually have to go out and earn a single vote. But I think I would take it actually one step further. Of course, there was no open primary in 2024 for the Democrats. They anointed her. But there really wasn't an open primary in 2020. No. I mean, the powers that be got together in South Carolina and decided that Joe Biden was the best candidate to take on Donald Trump.
Duncan, you can make the argument about 2016. Just ask Bernie Sanders supporters.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, there is a long history of this in the Democratic Party. And not only did they anoint Joe Biden in 2020, they got Klobuchar and Buttigieg.
Yeah, all to endorse.
Everyone to drop out and endorse. And what? He had come in like 5th place in like Iowa and in New Hampshire.
Michael, you just don't understand. They were trying to save democracy by shortchanging.
There is the Greek tragedy of Joe Biden, dementia patient with an ego bigger than Washington, D.C. is the same power structure that rigged the game for him in 2020 is the one that dethroned him in 2024.
Oh, man, that is beautiful.
Yeah,
that is by the sword.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, in Joe Biden's defense, I've never heard him say, I'm a role model. I'm a member of the role model club. Here's everyone. I'm your role model. Follow me. I'm someone to be admired, in case you didn't know. Well, I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more of that at her little sit down with Oprah Winfrey tonight. So what we have is a vacuous person whose true identity we really don't understand. What does she stand for? We have clues in 2019. She sounds very radical. But since then, and certainly since she became the nominee, it's just a game of cover-up. It's just cover and deny and obfuscate and not sign on to any earlier policy prescriptions. And like that one thing that Trump raises at the debate is a good example where he was like, she wants taxpayers to pay for gender identity or sex change operations for illegals and prisoners. 100% true. He gets erroneously fact-checked again by people like Susan Glasser at The New Yorker and Time Magazine, who Time Magazine had to undo its fact check once it realized, holy shit, she really did say that in 2019 on an ACLU questionnaire. Oh my God, they can't believe it. It's so radical, even for them, they can't even believe it. But then the other fact checks come out from like the New York Times and the Washington Post, and their fact checks are, we're not sure if she still has that position. She has needs context. That's what they're saying. Because when they went to her campaign, the campaign guy was like, she didn't say that since becoming the nominee. And these newspapers with supposed actual journalists accept this as a reason to add context. Well, it's not something she has said like within the past 2 months. So nobody knows. No, I mean, who could know?
It's amazing. And then like to add a layer to it, when confronted the very few times she has on those questions, provides no clarification. We were talking about on the show a couple of weeks ago about how easy it is from a communication standpoint to build in a little layer where you turn from the position that you're in, saying like, well, look, I was from California and this is the way we saw the world. But as vice president, I traveled to Pennsylvania, spent a lot of time with people and understand that fracking is an important American industry. And it allows us to ultimately be independent of foreign sources of energy. Like that's a very easy answer that she can't give. Why is she not giving it? One, she's rhetorically challenged, but two, and more importantly, is she doesn't want to piss off the left.
Yep.
That's the issue. So like for people who are trying to like, I don't know who this lady is. Let me just tell you who she is. Who she is trying to win a general election. That's who she is.
Yep,
she will do absolutely anything to win it. If she were to win a general election, what you've seen with the last, I don't know, dozen Democratic presidents is their first quarter of the first year that they're president, their constituency goes from the entire country to the left to try to work on behalf of the people that they see were the most helpful to their campaign to get them there in the first place. Joe Biden ran as a moderate. Joe Biden ran as a caretaker. He was like a New Deal Democrat during the first 90 days of his administration, spent like $5 trillion. What do you think Kamala Harris would do?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, you know, if you look at her Senate record, she was the most liberal voting member of the Senate, to the left of Bernie Sanders. And I think Bernie Sanders gave the perfect answer to where she stands on things. He said, well, you know, she's got to get elected. Yeah. The understanding is that, like, she can't really say she's crazy, folks, or else we don't get the crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And now, so now you have Hillary Clinton coming out. She's on some rancid book tour. And she sits down with the vile Kara Swisher. Someday I'll tell my Kara. Someday I'll tell my Kara Swisher story. And excuses the absence of any policy positions coming from this woman. It's like not something that we need to worry about, according to Hillary Clinton in SOT 23.
She does not have to do it, Kara. I'm going to just cut to the chase. In fact, she's put out policies on her campaign website. Anybody who's truly interested can go and read about them. She referenced policies. She actually doesn't just have policies and concepts. She has, plans about what to do. I think it's a it's a double standard, and it's a double standard that is partly because they are still getting to know her, but also because they're still grappling with the idea like, oh, am I really going to vote for a woman to be president and commander in chief?
Real double standard. People want to know what the president is going to do.
Is it you're a misogynist now if you want policy, if you want her to explain what she's going to do for the economy? It's because she's new to this. What? I don't even understand what she's saying. But of course, she's got to inject the woman thing in there. Back to, I have a vag. I'm a role model.
I really
shorthanding it now.
I love that audio. I think Hillary Clinton made a lot of really great points about misogyny and double standards. And I think she should be the Harris for president campaign surrogate in Wisconsin, where she was so popular in 2016.
It's such a crazy dichotomy because, I kind of liked hearing her husband lie to us.
Yeah.
It kind of felt good. You need to be lying, but it sort of felt good. Hers is just so grating. I mean, almost
These
everything
lies are bad.
is just so terrible.
And that must really irk her.
It must.
That she was like, he's such a lying bastard. I like him for it.
But they don't.
She's got all sorts of reasons to dislike him. So
Democrats.
So you've got Kamala out there, fake Kamala, right? Like Avatar, whatever you want to call her, but just there's nothing to connect to. Even at that NABJ thing she went to yesterday or the day before yesterday, we played it yesterday where, they asked her, how many ways are you joyful? Like, what makes you joyful? I mean, I threw up in my mouth. When she turned to walk away, it was actually really interesting. I don't know if she shook their hands and she turned on a dime, was out of there to the point where even the black journalists, the three who were interviewing her were like, whoa, I guess she's gone. She's leaving. Like, absolutely no charm. No ability to show we've had a connection here. And this is really cool. Thanks for having me. I'm out of here. Peace out. We'll lay the video in later. Forgot to ask my team to pull it. But just contrast that with Trump, who for some reason had a rally in New York. I don't know why. He's not going to win New York. But, I guess you never know. And there's lots of SOTs from this appearance because it's quite amazing. But the one I want, hold on. I want the one where he's talking about, hold on, where is it? The guy telling the Harry, talking about Harry. Do you guys have that?
Yes,
SOT 12.
I saw that.
Let's listen to SOT 12.
We can do all of this and more, but patriotic New Yorkers must get your asses out to vote. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Harry, get up, Harry. Harry, get your fat ass out of the couch. You're going to vote for Trump today, Harry. Get up, Harry. Come on, let's go. Let's go, Harry.
Just love it.
It's a great
one knows who
GOTV
Harry
strategy.
is, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's funny. He can make fun of himself, of us, of the country if he needs to. People appreciate that. That's who he is. He's the other stuff too, but that's who he is. That's charming.
Yeah. He sounds like a human, which is just after you see those Kamala Harris clips, it's so jarring because he's able to connect with people. Like you'll see media people being like, how do people think that a billionaire is relatable? That's why he talks like people talk to each other, not like, oh, we'll undo the memory of the past. Like no one can relate to Kamala Harris whatsoever. When he says that, you think of, I know a buddy like a Harry who never votes. It might be a good idea to tell him, Harry, get off your ass. This year you're going to vote.
Yeah.
Everyone laughed because everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
So, that's a brilliant maneuver by him. And also the reason I think he's in New York, that's brilliant too. That's where we're going to pick up House seats. That's where we're going to defend House seats. And when he becomes president, we need the House.
Yeah.
So showing up at that rally, that energizes a lot of those voters, like all through Long Island.
Yeah.
Those people are going to be juiced and ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, in 2022, our majority was basically entirely banked on the gains in New York and California that we had.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he was in Long Island, which is, they actually can win Long Island. That's where we have Republicans on Long Island, in Staten Island, and up north where I grew up. It's the city that's blue as blue can be. Here's a little bit more. So when he shows up, I mean, like a boss, they were really happy to see him. Take a look at the reception he got in Sod 8. Look at the number of people there, you guys.
Stadium.
Look at that.
Wow. Amazing.
Right? It's incredible. They
It
say
really
it was
is
some
incredible.
16,000. I'm sure Trump is online right now saying it's 160,000, but it was a lot.
It was a lot either way. But, I think one of the things that Trump has that's really, really hard to find in anyone, and certainly is like a great contrast with Kamala Harris, is that he's got multiple gears. He does the stadium tour and the big stage stuff, and he's funny and he's witty and he's got all this stuff. But he's also really, really good in a room full of 8 people.
Yeah.
And the people who've spent time with him, maybe for the first time in a small room, like they come away with a real positive impression of him. Like, have you ever heard of anyone being like, hey, I went to meet with Kamala Harris today and we sat on her couch and man, she's just the best.
Yeah.
Holmes, look what happened with the Teamsters.
Yeah, right. Right.
They had one meeting with her. They were like, for the first time ever, we're not going to endorse the Democrat.
Ashbrook always makes this point because it's sort of like, it comes up every cycle is like, let so-and-so be so-and-so.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris is like the only candidate in history where you never hear that advice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just let Kamala be Kamala. It's like, please, no.
Dear God, hide her.
You only have 45 days. Don't let her do that.
No, there's an Axios report out today talking about how the plan is keep her and Walz the hell away from the press. And you have to admit, it's a good plan. It was 100% what you guys would be advising if she brought you in on how to win. Am I wrong?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you have that dumpster fire that's just waiting to be ignited with gasoline, no, you hide that thing in back. I mean, they did a version of it with Joe Biden in 2020 for different reasons. For her, it's like we were saying, I think last time we were together, Megyn, the problem that she's got is there's no way to completely bottle it up because any public appearance runs the risk of abject catastrophe because she's just that bad. So they're just trying to mitigate the damage.
Yep.
But every time she walks out of the front door of the Naval Observatory where she lives up in the vice president's residence, it's a problem. And they know it's a problem.
And I think this is, like Holmes says, this is a major problem because essentially this is an admission that campaign can only play defense. They just want to make sure there's not any more bleeding. They can just hold out for 45 days. And then on the complete opposite side of the coin, you've got Trump going and doing podcasts that you have millions of people listening to, doing these stadium tours that you have tens of thousands of people showing up to. He's actually going on offense, trying to gain ground, trying to get more people on his side that are out there and who feel like this economy is terrible, the border's in crisis. And all that Kamala's team can do is say, we got to run out the clock. We got to hope we're at numbers enough that we can just watch the clock run out.
But think about that. She can't even talk about the job she wants. If you were interviewing somebody for a position and they can't even talk, like if you were interviewing somebody to fill out spreadsheets for a living and they can't talk about what they would do in that job, you'd be like, I'm going to find somebody else. She's not trying to fill out spreadsheets. She's supposed to be in charge of the free world.
Yeah.
And she can't even talk about the job. I mean, that is, red flags are real.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the sign. Everybody is looking for the sign. That's the sign.
That's it. So meanwhile, you got Trump who charms this crowd. And I want to show you a little bit more of this Long Island rally because it was pretty extraordinary. But before he went out there, he met with this little boy, Liam, who has made the news before. Trump, I believe, sent him a special birthday gift. It was a signed photo of Trump. And he was so sweet. He was overwhelmed. And so this boy shows up backstage to the Trump rally. And he, as I say, I believe it's a brain disorder that Liam suffers from, but clearly he's special needs. And that can be awkward for some people to be around, especially, you know, a 78-year-old guy. Maybe he'll know how to handle this. Maybe he won't. I've got to tell you, Trump did extraordinarily well with this little boy. Take a look for yourselves. Watch what happened.
I'm supposed to be on that stage, but that doesn't matter. Because I got you the best president you'll ever have. This is the best president you'll ever have. How are you, Bob? Hi, Mom. Okay, honey, this is yours. And in there is real good stuff. Okay? So beautiful. Thank you. See, look at that. Look at these great photographers. And we're going to have that picture of a life, okay? You and I. That is awesome. Is he going to come out and watch me?
Of course.
Because I left the stage in order to come and say hello there.
How special you are.
Okay, honey? So beautiful. So you take care of Mom and Dad? Is that your sister, right?
Takes care of us a lot of gray hair.
So why don't you do this? Take care of yourselves. Okay, I'm going to go right after you.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, honey, okay? I wish I looked like that. If I looked like that, I'd be president.
That is sweet.
You gotta love that. Anybody who knows how to handle themselves around people with disabilities is a very, very special person. And I feel like this is not a one-off thing for Trump. I don't know if you remember the concert that was given a few years ago by a Jewish group, and they sang just a beautiful rendition of America the Beautiful, I think. And then everybody just ran over to Trump. Like all of these
it was
kids
all
with
Down syndrome and other disabilities that were part of that crowd, right? I mean, that was the whole basis of the song.
They finished the song and they all just sprinted towards Trump, and Trump's standing there hugging everybody. He wants to spend time with them, and I just think it really reveals somebody's character.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No question.
It's pretty extraordinary range, right? To be able to deal with sweet Liam in that very nice way where maybe you're not getting verbal answers, but you keep the conversation going and you pay respects to the mother and the sister, and and then also can go out there and say, Harry, get your fat ass off the couch. I think it's called emotional range. Here he was at that same rally talking about the assassination attempt that happened days ago. Take a listen to Sat 9.
This could only happen with a woman because men aren't smart enough, I hate to tell you fellas. And he was running. And a woman driving a car innocently said, he looks like a bad person to me. He looks very suspicious. And she followed him and pulled up to the back of the car and started taking pictures of his license plate. Can you believe that? Who the hell would do that, right? Only a woman.
Pretty good. I did not know it was a woman until he said that. Did you guys know it was a woman?
No, that was news.
What
that was news.
Women's intuition?
That's right.
No, it's a real thing.
Oh, man.
But he's right. Who the hell would do that? If you see a man running and he gets in his car and starts speeding away, like, I might take a photo. I don't think I'd follow the man. I'm not sure I'd follow. No. I don't know exactly how it went down. But anyway, I love that he called it out and that, he told the story. And now we've learned a little bit more. And he said he really would like to meet her, which absolutely has to happen.
Totally.
We have to talk about the latest on the assassination and all that stuff. He did add a little bit more on that. I'll let you hear it in Sat 10.
And God has now spared my life. It must have been God. Thank you. Not once, but twice. And there are those that say he did it because Trump is going to turn this state around. He's going to turn this country around. He's going to make America great again. And maybe. And we're going to bring back religion into our country. Bring it back. These encounters with death have not broken my will. They have really given me a much bigger and stronger mission. They've only hardened my resolve to use my time on earth to make America great again for all Americans, to put America first.
I gotta say, guys, what do you notice there? He's on prompter, and he's sticking to prompter, and thumbs up on that decision. That's what we needed more of at the RNC and over the past 8 weeks.
No question about it. It's a powerful message. It's undeniable, right? I mean, look, I think there are elements of the electorate who have a hard opinion about Donald Trump for the inverse reason that they don't see the kind of emotional range that we've just shown here in the last 5-6 minutes, and they think he's hard to relate to. They think he's mean. They don't like his tone or whatever. Watch that.
Yep.
You know, and in the context of the election that we're in, the proximity to the election day, that stuff is really, really important because we're talking about 50, 60,000 votes max in 6 or 7 states. This is going to come down to somebody who didn't vote for Trump in 2020 because they thought he was sort of a dick. And they see that kind of thing and it's like, well, I don't know, man. Maybe God's plan is bigger here. Maybe this, it speaks to people in a different level. He keeps that kind of messaging around the traditional, what everybody loves about Trump stuff. He can knit together a coalition here. It's not only going to win, but I think it's going to surprise some people in some other states that they've written him off in. The Michigans, Wisconsins, Arizona, other places in Pennsylvania, which looks tight as a tick.
I have friends. Well, one dear friend of mine just said this to me the other day, who genuinely believe Trump will win because of that head turn that saved his life. In other words, God saved him for a reason. And why would God have done that, if he weren't going to win this election? I realize what we need is people to actually get out and vote on November 5th and not you can't leave it in the Lord's hands. But it does feel like divine intervention. And I think it was smart of Trump to raise that. Republicans tend to be more religious than the left. And he knows the crowd he's speaking to. It's more conservative in Long Island. And I think he was on point to just stick to the script there, deliver what was an important message about what happened to him, sticking to the prompter, right? He's obviously very comfortable off prompter, unlike his opponent. But that led to a pretty poignant moment. And then when he swung by later and visited the set of Gutfeld, he, in his typical self, in his typical, personality, made fun of the whole thing a little, which is good. I mean, to me, this shows emotional resilience, right? Because if I had just been almost shot at, I would not even be in public, never mind at a rally and on Gutfeld. But here he is in SOT 14.
Mr. P, how's your golf game?
Well, haven't been thinking about it too much lately. I always said golf is a very dangerous game.
It really is. It really is, especially if they're playing with you.
Yeah, that's true. That's
that was a mean joke.
Pretty sad.
If they had told you that the shooter was there, would you have tried to take him out with your 3-wood?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, if I knew. Actually, the Secret Service did a great job. They saw the barrel of a gun, big gun.
Yeah.
And it came out through bushes. And how many people would see that? First, he really was very exceptional to have done it.
What do you make of it?
Well, it's got to be an emotional journey for him at this point.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I just... Look, he's bigger than life. He's been famous my entire life. He's been part of public eye. He's been brash, and he's the first guy who's famous for being famous. But to have your life literally that close to ending 2 times in 3 months, it's got to give you a little bit of perspective.
Yeah, I love how he's able to do 2 things. On Gutfeld, he's able to joke about it, which has to be a coping mechanism. I don't know how you could still run for president, let alone play golf again, unless you could find the humor in the fact somebody tried to kill you. But back to your earlier point, Holmes, he's also been able to use these attempts on his life as a way to make a positive case for his election. Mm-hmm. And he has not been as strong at doing that in other cases. He's always been really great at pointing out the failures of the system. And that's why he was elected in 2016. But this time's different because he's had the job.
Yeah.
And so making this positive case, this emotional case that's going to get that swing voter in the suburbs of Philadelphia to be I'm going to give Donald Trump another chance is so, so important.
That's a good point.
You do wonder how he can maintain a good attitude given everything that's happened to him, right? The civil lawsuits. Let's not forget that nutcase E. Jean Carroll. Oh, she's going to sue me. That's my opinion, E. Jean. She got $80 million. Tish James, the AG who ran on a promise to get Trump, got almost $500 million. He's fighting both of those on appeal right now. The 4 criminal cases against him, the 2 impeachments, 2 assassination attempts. You do wonder, how does the guy still have a smile on his face? But actually, I figured it out. I have the answer. I'm going to play it for you in SOT 40.
Why do I stand proudly behind my nude modeling work? The more pressing question is, why has the media chosen to scrutinize my celebration of the human form in a fashion photo shoot? Are we no longer able to appreciate the beauty of the human body? Throughout history, master artists have revered
Thank you for
the human
choosing us
shape,
again,
evoking
Megyn.
profound emotions and admiration. We should honor our bodies and embrace the timeless tradition of using art as a powerful means of self-expression.
You do it deliberately. You do it deliberately.
I do it deliberately. Yeah. I mean, Melania Trump has been in a lot of nude photos. They're all over the internet, and she looks spectacular. And here, for some reason, in promotion with her book, she's chosen to remind us. Here you go, British GQs, fellas. I mean, what do you think? It's beautiful art, is it not?
Certainly not going to subtract votes. I know that. Smart, what's your take?
I was recently in Florence, and I saw David that she showed in that clip, and it really is breathtaking.
If you think you were going to get this crew to provide any critique of Melania's nude modeling, I'm sorry, man.
My theory is that is why he is so joyful. I think most men in America would be pretty joyful if they had Melania Trump waiting for them at home.
It's as good an argument as any.
She's got a book coming out, and everybody's like, she's not doing interviews. How's she ever going to sell this book? I'm like, she's smarter than the rest of us. That's how she's going to sell the book. You're going to get a million tongues wagging. All right, so while on Gutfeld, Trump got into some substantive stories, and this one's actually funny too. It's about his one interaction with Tim Walz. Listen here.
He called up years ago. I was in the White House, and he said, my house is being surrounded by people with American flags. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He said, I think they're going to attack me. He said, could you put out a word like that I'm your friend? I don't even know him, but that's the only time I ever spoke to him. Long ago, I put out a statement. He's a good man, the governor. He's on our side. I didn't know him, but I didn't want him to get hurt. And everybody put down their flags and they left. He said it was a miracle. He remembers it, actually. He was a little bit nervous. And he said, we have one guard at the door and you have 15,000 people out there. And I'm a little bit, I don't know, they look violent. I said, are they carrying the American flag? They're not going to be violent. Yes. But I put out a statement and they just went back. It was sort of a beautiful thing in a lot of ways. Beautiful. Yeah.
It's a great story to tell, right? It makes Trump look magnanimous, and it makes Tim Walz look like a scared little coward, does it not?
And the conclusions are always so great. That was a beautiful thing. It's just a beautiful, great, big, beautiful thing. It's just so good.
He came to me, tears in his eyes.
Here's the difference, though. Here's another reason why it works. It works because Trump understood Tim Walz felt like he was under threat, and he stepped in to save him. And the Democrats right now fully understand that Trump is under threat and seem to be cheering it on.
Yes.
Their language keeps winding up in the public musings of his would-be assassins. And then when asked, might now be a good time to tone it down? This was the Democrats' message. Did you see this remarkable exchange between Peter Doocy and Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House this week? Watch this.
How many more assassination attempts on Donald Trump until the president and the vice president and you pick a different word to describe Trump other than threat?
Peter, if anything from this administration, I actually completely disagree with the premise of your question, the question that you're asking. It is also incredibly dangerous in the way that you're asking it because American people are watching. And to say that to say that from an administration who has consistently condemned political violence, from an administration where the president called the former president and was thankful, grateful that he was okay.
I mean,
so the problem is his question is incredibly dangerous to them. That's how she turned it.
That's the thing is this is something that the Democrats for years have really focused and honed in on, is saying that speech is dangerous. What you're saying is going to get people killed. What you're saying is going to get people hurt. They've been using this trick against conservatives, saying that's stochastic terrorism, while ignoring actual threats, actual violence, actual bullets being fired at Donald Trump. They say, well, maybe he should tone it down. Their attack on free speech, on letting Americans think what might be true, instead of force feeding them their own version of what's going on.
Yeah,
that's what threatens the Democrats.
Our words are violence, and their violence is justified.
That's it. That's exactly.
That's the magic trick they pull.
It's true. It's disgusting. I mean, look, their media allies have actually made it even worse, right? I mean, you sort of expect caustic language at the end of a general election for president of the United States. That just kind of comes with the territory. But when you get like Lester Holt on NBC the other night, when they're talking about another assassination attempt, and their pivot to the next story is, it comes amongst heated rhetoric from J.D. Vance, where now Springfield, Ohio is under threat from potential bombs.
Right.
And it's like, first of all, the story wasn't true. So thanks for putting that on headline nightly news for NBC. But second of all, like, what does the campaign rhetoric of J.D. Vance have to do with an assassination attempt on the guy he's running with?
Right. And what he said
Nothing.
right before what Josh described is, we don't know the motive of the shooter.
Yeah.
But everything you're hearing from Trump and Vance is bad.
Yep.
Like they are ascribing a motive to the shooter for partisan purposes. I mean, they're all Democrats. We know they're Democrats. How hard would it have been for Karine Jean-Pierre just to say, you know what, you're right, political rhetoric needs to be toned down in this country, and end it there? Nobody's going to fault her for that. She's certainly not going to get a bad write-up in ABC or NBC.
To the contrary.
Nobody's going to hit her for that. So why does she feel the need to be so partisan from that podium?
Yeah, what does it cost her?
The nerve.
Yeah.
The nerve, Duncan, for her to turn it around to say, what you're asking is incredibly dangerous. What's dangerous is you're bringing up that we continue referring to him as a threat.
Yeah, it is like, I don't know if there's a better word to describe it than being gaslit.
100%.
Like, they just stare at you and they reflect back and say what you're asking is dangerous, like not the assassination attempt of a former president. And it's like, how do you have a conversation with somebody who operates like that? I mean, it's so incredibly disingenuous. And to Ashbrook's point, like, what would it cost her? It would cost her nothing to be like, yeah, it would be valuable for us all to tone down our rhetoric at times. Period. End of statement. Like, she's gonna get a PolitiFact, 4 Pinocchios in 2 weeks. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, why not just say that?
It's because
She will get her hand slapped, because right now all the buzz on the Dem side is like, we're not going to go there. This is Trump's fault. He brought it on himself. That's the party line. So she's afraid to say that. You mentioned Lester Holt. We played Norah O'Donnell, who refused to be outdone by Lester Holt and by Lindsay Davis, who did the same thing over on ABC on Sunday night, the night of the assassination. Listen to Norah, you guys.
Donald Trump is blaming Democrats for inflaming political rhetoric, but the former president's own words seem to be increasing the threat of political violence in Springfield, Ohio. That's where a false and ugly accusation against Haitians, thousands of whom are legal permanent residents, is impacting everyday life.
We already knew that the bomb threats were a hoax when she read that. It's
stunning. It's just stunning. I mean, look, it's going to get worse. Your audience should know this. It's going to get worse. As bad as you think that clip is, as bad as Lester Holt was, as bad as everything that you're seeing in the Washington Post, New York Times, and everything, it's going to get worse. Yep. They're going to try to wedge Republicans against the Trump. They're going to try to say anything you could possibly. There is no bottom of the barrel for this crew. They will do whatever it takes to try to figure out a way to get Donald Trump the furthest place away from this White House. And they're going to do it every day, every minute until Election Day.
You could say they're ruthless.
Yeah.
That's what I'm detecting. All right, there's more to do on the assassination, and we'll do that right after this quick break. The fellas stay with me for the whole show. Lucky us. Do you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns? Along with hiring tens of thousands of new agents this year, not to mention field officers, the IRS has been sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. Don't waive your rights and speak with these guys on your own. Instead, Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved more than $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they might be able to help secure the best deal possible for you. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help you. Whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay or if you're on a fixed income, they can help you. Finally resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call them at 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. Don't let the IRS control your life. Empower yourself with Tax Network USA's support and take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/Megyn today. Guys, a bit of breaking news here. It involves the North Carolina gubernatorial race, which we haven't been covering really at all. But we do watch these state races from time to time because they can, if there's, one person who runs away with it or one person who absolutely is engulfed in scandal, it can depress the vote potentially for that party or inflate the vote for the other. So this would be, in that category, bad news for the Republicans. In that state, there is a retiring governor, Roy Cooper, who's a Dem, and the race to replace him is between the lieutenant governor, Mark Robinson, a Republican, and the North Carolina Attorney General, Josh Stein, a Dem. Mark Robinson has found himself engulfed in controversy. He's made a lot of controversial comments that we already know about. A lot of us first noticed him because we don't pay a lot of attention to the lieutenant governors in the various states when this clip went viral where he was making a lot of sense about the gender issue. Apparently, the sensible comments were not uniform on all subjects, but here's just a reminder for our audience of Mark Robinson.
You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, cut up man or woman. You ain't changed what God put in you, that DNA.
Well, that kind of sensible talking is what drew a lot of fans his way. However, it looks like he's about to potentially be forced out of this race. Publication Carolina Journal reporting now that sources with direct knowledge have spoken to them on the condition of anonymity and said that Robinson is under pressure from staff and members of the Trump campaign to withdraw from this race due to the nature of a story that's about to hit tonight, which they say involves, quote, activity on adult websites in the 2000s. National Review also reporting on it, saying it involves sexual and race-related comments in chat rooms. So that's a little different than activity on adult websites. We don't know exactly what the nature of the, quote, scandal is, but according to the Carolina Journal, even Team Trump is distancing itself from him and potentially even pressuring him to withdraw. The Robinson campaign responded, the director, communications director, quote, whomever your sources are here, it is complete fiction. So they've been given, tonight is actually the deadline. It's the state deadline to withdraw from the race. And this is Oppo research that was leaked to the media by his opponent, the campaign of his opponent who leaked it to CNN and local Raleigh news outlet WRAL, expected to hit airwaves tonight. So is it important? Do we care? What do you make of it?
Yeah. I mean, we care a lot. You may or may not have noticed that the Republican Party over the last few years has run into a touch of a candidate quality problem from time to time. This would certainly be one of them. Look, North Carolina is a really important state. The problem that you have is when you get down ballot, and you're dealing with governor's races, there's not a Senate race there this year. But if there's somebody who just lags the field significantly, it depresses turnout, or at least has the capacity to depress turnout in a very meaningful way. And in a state where you need every last Republican vote for Donald Trump to get to 270 on the Electoral College, any little thing like this is potentially extremely problematic. I mean, Smug, you're from North Carolina. What's the take?
I think there is among Republicans in North Carolina a lot of frustration because Republicans have a supermajority in the state legislature. They control the state House, the state Senate, and both Senate seats in North Carolina to the United States Senate are Republicans as well. It seems like for a while, governors just eluded part of the Republican majority in the state. And so for Republicans, the most important thing is to win. They need to get the governor's mansion under Republican control, because for so long, you've seen the state start to take this like leftward tilt, which actually doesn't reflect the voters of the people of North Carolina. And so to Republicans, this hunger to win is, I mean, it can't be overstated how badly we need this race. You see Donald Trump is neck and neck with Kamala Harris in North Carolina, and voters tend to break late in the state of North Carolina. So while there's time, whatever decision needs to be made, whatever can lead to a win at the top of the ticket in the governor's race needs to be done.
North Carolina is important. The latest poll, which we were going to get to in this block, is from Emerson Polling, showing them neck and neck in these swing states. In North Carolina, Trump was up 1 in August. Now it's showing a 2-point swing to Harris. Harris up 1. All of that is within the margin of error, and thus there could have been absolutely no movement from August to now. But anyway, for what it's worth, she's showing up 1, which just tells us it's just as tight as it could be there. So every tiny movement could potentially matter.
Yeah. I mean, no question about it. Look, if this was the Democratic Party, that guy would be packing up the printer cartridges right now, right? With the Republican Party, look, we've had a problem when it comes to trying to figure out how to put our best team on the field in some of these races over the years. I think the Senate Republicans, who had a huge problem in 2022, corrected that under the leadership of Steve Daines at the Senatorial Committee. But it is a problem. And if you leave these things to their own sort of merits, they often just don't work out for you. And this is one of the prime examples.
I think the only mistake Democrats made is if they really have the goods on this guy, they should have waited till after the deadline.
But he's already trailing 10. You know, I mean, here's the thing,
He's
Megyn,
behind, I think, by 8.
This is a near double-digit margin between where he's at the ballot and where Donald Trump is on the ballot. That in and of itself, before whatever this story is hits, tells you about the quality of this campaign that he's running. You can't have it. You can't have it in elections with stakes this high, where the American people and the people of North Carolina's entire fortunes are riding here. You can't, as a party, just sort of throw it up, let go, and let God and hope something works out in your favor. Like, these things take a lot of work to ensure that you get the right candidate match with the right constituency in statewide elections, particularly purple states and ones that are going to be ultimately very competitive.
I love the I think it's a Goodfellas reference. I can't have it, right? Paul Sorvino. I can't have it. I can't have it.
Can't have it.
Yeah, you can't have it, but you're about to have it. And by the way, for what it's worth, the Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson's spokesperson, Michael Lonergan, told National Review Online just now that it is a, quote, complete fiction that Robinson will drop out of this year's North Carolina gubernatorial race. Tough to know what to wish for. I guess he's going to do whatever he's going to do. It's kind of...
Well, Megyn,
the ship has sailed at this point.
I'll see your movie reference and I'll raise you one with Bronx Tale. And tomorrow for Robinson, it's like Bronx Tale, where they lock the door and now yous can't leave.
Yeah. Well done,
I mean,
sir.
to my understanding, mail-in ballots are going out tomorrow. So, I mean, this is a very small window.
Thing is probably baked.
Yeah, exactly right. It's baked. And they probably did hold it until right now for that reason, right? Just as long as they possibly could before they thought it was going to, whatever. I mean, look, it could be worse. It could be something higher up the ticket, like Trump. This is, one gubernatorial race. Things are, I just don't know whether North Carolinians, who tend to be a little bit more red statey, but, by history anyway, are going to hold this against Trump, who hasn't been appearing at rallies with this guy anyway. And even J.D. Vance apparently had the sense to distance himself from him prior to this because they did not appear at a rally that when he was going to go, suddenly the lieutenant governor got COVID. But there, it seems like Team Vance, Trump may have known beforehand, like, this is not our best ambassador. Maybe don't share the stage.
I think that's right. But I mean, look, if you go in the Wayback Machine, we've had this issue before. In 2012, when Mitt Romney was on the top of the ticket, there was a guy by the name of Todd Akin in the state of Missouri who was running Senate there, and he said some sort of unspeakable things about women's bodies and everything else, impossible to justify. And there was a huge effort, starting with Mitt Romney's team all the way down, to try to get him out of that race. And he said similar things to what that spokesperson of Mark Robinson was, just basically like, I won the nomination, I'm going to go forward. The end result of that was a massive shift where he was winning that race by 10 points. He ended up losing it by 10 plus to a Democrat in a very red state. But he also dragged the whole ticket down. He made Missouri an incredibly competitive race when it really should not have. And you can also argue there was some spillover effect. I don't think that's going to happen with Trump, just because Trump is so identifiable. I mean, there's no one that you can be like, well, Trump knows this guy, so that therefore Trump has more baggage than he already has. Like, Trump's his own thing, So I don't think anybody's dragging Trump, but you can see with enthusiasm, there are segments of the electorate that get really ginned up about governor's elections, as you were talking about. And like, is there a little softening of your motivation? Perhaps. Any softening spells trouble.
All right, let's go back to the Trump assassination attempt, which is already being memory holed in so many corners of the media. I mean, let's face it, virtually every single one. They don't want to talk about it. They're not interested. Anything that makes Trump look sympathetic is not interesting to them. How is it going in the wake of now 2 attempts on the president's life to tone down the rhetoric about him? Let's check back in with our old friend Hillary Clinton, who said this on MSNBC within 24 hours of the assassination attempt news breaking the day before, 22. Saw 22.
And sadly, the press is still not able to cover Trump the way that they should. I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump. His demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it. Americans need to understand that they have to take Trump both seriously and literally. He has said what he wants to do. He and his allies with Project 2025, his desire to be a dictator, at least on day one, all of that is in the public record. He can't go back and give this very dangerous man another chance to do harm to our country and the world.
Well, I don't understand why she can't find a consistently good hairdresser. So we're all confused about consistency.
I was just going to say, like, did she put on a Madeleine Albright mask? Well, I mean, what happened there? That's like,
sometimes she looks quite good. At the DNC, she looked quite good. Then it fell apart, whatever. My point is, I don't think she got the message about the dangerous rhetoric, guys.
Oh, she sure didn't. I mean, what an inarticulate surrogate. I can't even imagine
Holmes,
that they
wait, can I just say, and let's just be clear, it's their message. The Dems are the ones who say our words matter and can be dangerous, and we have to be responsible with them. Even 13 years later, they can cause a madman to attack Paul Pelosi. That's them who say, they're the ones who say that.
You know what I wonder is, like, who's making Hillary Clinton still do this? What? You've been in the public sphere for couldn't you just hang it up?
Just shameless.
Hang the jersey up? Like, why? Who needs another memoir from Hillary Clinton that she has to get out and do a media tour for, where we just need her musings on the politics of the day? I mean, how pathetic is that? Number one.
I have an answer to that. I think I know. It's purely speculative. But Hillary Clinton has a very weird and I think shitty marriage. And I have lots of reasons to believe that, as everybody knows. I don't think she has a husband who is in love with her or faithful to her. And I think I can't really blame him because she seems to have accepted this behavior since the inception of their marriage. And so past his prologue, you're going to get what you tolerate, what you permit, you promote. So she's in this marriage that is, at best loveless and at worst hateful. And she spent all of her daughter's upbringing away at work, at the law firm, in the White House, running for office. And Chelsea Clinton is not a nice person. And I think really is just sort of getting along based on the family name at this point. Remember her short stint as a Today Show correspondent? It was like, just use the name to up and up. That doesn't do anything for your ego. You're unable to affirm yourself. You need other people to do it. And so now she's got a daughter who I guess married a rich guy, but is struggling in her own right. Hillary's in a loveless marriage. She probably doesn't have a lot of real friends, just people who are glommers. And so she absolutely does have to write a fifth memoir and go on MSNBC and be told that she's amazing and that she matters.
And also the other thing, and I was Googling this because there was a rotating chyron on that clip of MSNBC. And every time I watch MSNBC, it feels like I'm opening a time capsule from 2016. And in that rotating chyron, and Hillary Clinton's on television, there was a promo for From Russia with Lev, a new documentary about Russia with Lev Parnas. And it's how are we still on MSNBC talking about Russia? I mean, these people are so one note. It's
That's
incredible.
Rachel Maddow's new documentary, Steve Krakauer was telling me. Unbelievable. She's doing new documentaries on the Russians still?
It's still unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. There's also, there's one more element to Hillary Clinton. It was what you got to at the top of the show, that Kamala's role model thing. I'm the first woman. I'm the first. We had like an internal bingo game here about Hillary Clinton's speech at the DNC. And like my first round draft pick is I guarantee that she says the name Geraldine Ferraro. And the reason that she says the name Geraldine Ferraro is because she was obviously the first woman vice presidential candidate. But then she'll use it as a way to talk about how she sort of broke these ceilings in order for Kamala to become the first woman presidential, maybe president.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like that thing that you always say, Holmes. We always talk about this too. Like when people rise during someone's farewell address in the United States Senate. Right. And they're ostensibly there to praise this man or woman for their incredible service. But in fact, they just talk about themselves and how what they did helped this person have an illustrious career.
It's like Chris Christie at the 16 RNC, right? Wasn't that...
The best politicians in the world do this so well. They go get like the only people who would ever consider making a eulogy to someone about their efforts to help one segment of America, and it just so intersected with the dead guy and who helped my efforts, and so therefore, good man.
Yeah.
So true. Okay. So back to whether not one but two assassination attempts is tamping down the rhetoric on the Dem side. This one happened the day before the second assassination attempt, but 2 months after the first one where Trump took a bullet to the head. Has it tamped down the rhetoric? Let's check in with our friends at MSNBC, Jonathan Capehart's show, and a woman who goes by Democratic Party activist Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis.
It is outrageous. It's horrifying, but it's expected from a fascist authoritarian person who wants to create havoc in this country, who wants to take us to Nazi Germany. I can't even talk, Nazi Germany. We exported racism, fascism to Nazi Germany. We exported it to South Africa, Jonathan. We know how to do it. We're good at it. And let's not pretend that Donald Trump isn't exactly like Mussolini, exactly like Hitler. He is that guy.
Oh.
And we're not going to get what we want if we elect this fascist, authoritarian weasel.
No notes. It's perfect. That's absolutely the most insane thing I've heard yet.
It was absolutely insane. She started with like the shocking but not surprising thing that like you hear from a lot of political spokespeople. Then it just devolves into he's Hitler, he's Mussolini. We exported this to the other continent. What? With the doctor's coat on, with the yellow line? What does that mean?
I got to give a hat tip to Victor Davis Hanson for mentioning that. That's where I learned about it from. And he was saying, because he's, of course, a truly brilliant and very well-informed historian. And he said, I'll bet you anything that if you actually asked her to tell you anything about Mussolini or his background or his life, she couldn't do it. Here's her background, FYI. Senior minister at Middle Collegiate Church in New York City, which I think I have attended many times. It was connected with my son's old school. She's an activist, preacher, advocate for racial equality, economic justice, and LGBTQIA plus equality.
Oh, my Lord.
Checks all the boxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still reeling. Fellas, I don't think I've ever... You mean
And of course, does MSNBC say, oh, that's a lot, just got shot a couple weeks ago. Maybe No, it's fine. Because they believe it. If for the same reason, Trump protects Tim Walz when Tim Walz feels in trouble, and the Democrats are the ones causing the danger for Donald Trump. And they don't care. Their lunatics twice have now tried to take him out. I mean, they're still trying to tell us they don't know the political affiliation of the would-be shooter on Sunday, right? Pay no attention to that bumper sticker. It's and his 19 donations to Vote Blue, right? We have no idea. We'll never know.
Donald Trump has been president before. That's the thing that is most shocking, that they're trying to use the same strategies they tried in 2015 and 2016. It's like, he was president. Was this Nazi Germany while he was president? Do people actually believe that?
And I think they do. And so this is the thing, we've discussed why Kamala doesn't talk about any policy or what she would do, anything like that, because the unifying message to their voters is Trump is Hitler, Trump is Hitler. And that's also why they can never backpedal on any of this rhetoric, because if they say, well, listen, we don't want to have, any violence done to Donald Trump, then their voters will be like, wait a minute, you told us 10 seconds ago this guy was Hitler. If he's Hitler, shouldn't we get rid of him?
Yeah.
That's why they can never backpedal, because their whole election, their whole message is based on the fact of telling their voters that you're going to die, the world's going to end, Trump is Hitler, that's why you're going to vote.
Yeah, it's like baling wire and duct tape to try to keep their coalition together in the first place. And with this lady,
some might call it the big lie.
Well, let's see.
Did she?
Let's
hold on,
see if
Megyn.
they got the message that Trump is
She
Hitler.
had this export import.
Yeah.
She was saying that we exported our hate to Hitler. I mean, did she mean import the other way around?
I have no idea. Unless Donald Trump has a time machine, which many people have suggested.
Yeah, he's got to get in the DeLorean, do 48, right back to the 1930s. I mean, it's just unbelievable nonsense.
Let's see if the message has spread. Is this hate actually getting out there in a way that is, potentially disturbing? You could choose number 1 or number 2 assassination attempts, or you could just listen to C-SPAN in SOT 29.
Louisiana, Willie, Democrat, good morning.
Good morning. I just want to say I'm a very patriotic American. I did 20 years in the military, 2 tours in Vietnam, wounded in 1966, went back in 68. And I look at myself and think about, we were supposed, as a military man, we're supposed to close, kill, capture, destroy the enemy by all means available. And to see we let this man Trump destroy America, and I look at it and say, well, these 2 people had to step up and take that shot. I'm 83, nothing to lose.
I'm sorry, Willie, you're not advocating violence, are you?
Not violence. I'm talking about defending my country.
All right. Dan, in Louisville, Kentucky.
How about the look on that guy's face?
Wait a minute. Button.
Oh, there is such humor. I don't know if you ever we had to watch these shows when we were in the Senate because you'd have C-SPAN on because they put the floor on at 8, 9 o'clock. So you'd have to turn it on and they would do these call-in shows. It is high comedy when you get into the end of election season because the whole gist of what they do is that they sit there, they read the news basically on screen. They got a newspaper, they're literally reading it to you. And then they take calls and they take Republican, Democrat. And there's always this guy that looks exactly like that guy that they had on there who's earnestly staring into the camera and they're like, oh yeah, caller from here. And the guy, they inevitably lose their mind. And watching the face of the guy when he understands he's got a live one on is one of the funniest things you can ever see in politics.
Oh man,
I kind of expected him to push back a little, to be clear, we are not calling for violence. Do not listen to Willie. Willie sounds like a psycho. Like maybe something like that. I know it's a C-SPAN anchor, but my friend, television person to television person, maybe just a word of like, please don't. That's all. Nothing more than that. That'll do it.
Also, maybe a quick call to the FBI after that.
Yeah. Where exactly are you, Willie? You're just where exactly in Louisiana? Walk us through it. I know Holmes has got to go before the rest of you have to go, and before he goes, I do want to get to these polls, okay? Because I'd love to have everybody's take on them. How do you feel about what's come out? Because I read you some of the numbers on the. I gave you the North Carolina headline on the Emerson polling, but I'll just go down the list. Pennsylvania, they have Trump up 1. In July, they had him up 6. In Georgia, they have Trump up 3. In July, this is against Harris, he was up 6. In Arizona, they have Trump up 1. In July, he was up 8. In Wisconsin, Trump is up 1. That's the same result as July. In Nevada, it's a tie. They don't have July polling. They only have August. Harris was up 1. North Carolina, we went over. It's Harris up 1. And Michigan, they have Harris up 2. In July, it was Trump up 3. Now, you could make a good argument that this is not going in the right direction for Trump, right? If you just want to look at like directional polling as opposed to just today's snapshot, I think you'd be feeling better if you were on Team Harris. But what do I know? You guys tell me.
I think there's 3 different lenses that you have to put on today's polling in order to give it the proper context. The first lens is 2020, the last time that Trump was on the ballot. And what did those polls look like vis-a-vis Biden and what turned out to be a very close election? The second is the Biden numbers, many of which you just read in those July polling numbers, where Trump had this just magnificent lead over a clear invalid who had like basically defecated on himself in a debate stage, right? I mean, this is like it'll only be the high watermark for any Republican, let alone Donald Trump. And then the third lens is what does it look like from the time that Kamala Harris got in the race through the DNC convention. By all 3 of those lenses, he's better than he was in 2020 by a long shot, 3-4 points per state, some even more than that. For the Biden late matchup in late June and early July, it's clearly a step back. But you've got a brand new candidate who's ran a coronation campaign for 10 weeks. Much of that is kind of comes with the territory. But the third piece that I think is most important is that she was riding this incredible high through the DNC that began to fade just after Labor Day. And it's settled into this remarkable place where it looks an awful lot like the race you thought you were going to get in September of 2023. This is just going to be a tight election. We know what these candidates and how the American people have broken down over the last several cycles. It is just going to be a nail biter. But by looking at those 3 different lenses, you would say the only thing that I have a little bit of a problem in, I think if he would have just blown the water out in that debate, it's over. And he had a chance to actually end her campaign because it was heading back in the wrong direction. She sort of stabilized, and I think we're probably in for, a real late night on election night. And in the case of like Maricopa County, Arizona, it'll probably be December.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the one thing I would add on that to Holmes's second point on those June and July numbers of Biden or when Harris got right in the race, like Trump had a bigger lead in those surveys, but you got to look at who were the people, sitting on the sidelines, who were the undecided voters at that point. The vast majority were base Democrat voters who and young voters who were just demoralized about Biden and this sort of malaise in the Democratic Party. So yes, is the election tighter and has Harris taken a theoretical lead in some of these states? Yes, but it was just getting back her side to re-engage in politics, right? So back to what Holmes said, it's like, this is the race we expected a year ago today.
Mm-hmm. Can I give you a couple other numbers? Quinnipiac Blue Wall polling, that's Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. That is showing Harris is up 5 in Pennsylvania. On August 14th, they were showing her up 3. And this is said to be a more Democrat-leaning poll. RCP says that anyway. Michigan, Harris is up 5, according to this poll. There was no recent poll to compare it to. And Wisconsin, they have Harris up 1. The last Q poll on Wisconsin was back in May. Biden was up 6. So by that measure, Trump's doing much better in the state of Wisconsin. And then there's this Seltzer, Iowa poll. And this is the Des Moines, Iowa, or Des Moines Register poll conducted by Seltzer and Co. It was conducted last week before the second assassination attempt. Oh my God, it's amazing how we just kind of throw that out there now. And it's showing Trump up 4, which you might think sounds good, but because he won Iowa, Trump did, by 8.2 in 2020 and 9.4 in 2016. So why is he only up 4 in this, what is said to be the gold standard poll in Iowa? Not that we're worried about Trump losing Iowa, just what does that tell you?
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, those numbers are very similar to where he was in 2020 and maybe even leaner than that in 2016. So
At this
I'm not
point in
worried
the
about
race. Okay, that's interesting.
I'll also just say nobody's up 5 in any of these states. I mean, that's
Okay. It's a lie.
This is a margin of error race. You would have to work very, very hard to try to find a 5-point split in your sample base. Like, I wouldn't even release that poll because it's not true. I mean, the upside of what we do for a living is that we have a lot of polls. We're privy to a lot of this stuff. And I think that the reality is Pennsylvania's tied. I mean, it's just straight up tied. Turnout obviously going to have a lot to do. The universes that ultimately make up the election day turnout are going to be really big. Early votes really big. Everything is really big. It's just the composition of all of that matters. I mean, we saw in 2022, Democrats basically put the election away in Pennsylvania before they got to election day.
Yep.
Right? I mean, most people who voted in that election never got to see John Fetterman actually have that debate moment against Oz, where he just did terribly. Their votes were already in the bank. I think the Republican Party's got a little bit better handle on that this time around. I mean, there's no denying that the sky is blue and people actually do vote by mail and they vote early and all of those things. And there are efforts underway. I do.
You feel good about the get out the vote effort?
I wouldn't say I feel good. I say I feel better. I feel a lot better than where we were at 2020. But I feel better.
How does it get amped up to good, to great?
I don't think. Well, we'll see. I mean, look, I'd love to be surprised. I mean, one hopeful data point in particular in Arizona, if you look at the absentee by mail and EV early vote in the Arizona primary on the Republican side. Yes, good point.
We saw a lot of very strong numbers in the Republican primary, and there have been some attrition there in 2020, and a lot of that is due to Trump and other folks who are trying to get people to only vote on election day, which is a huge mistake in some of these states where they mail out ballots, right? But the other thing I would note is no one in our politics has outperformed his polling more consistently than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I remember in 2020 in Iowa in particular, and I agree with you. I mean, the Seltzer poll has largely been seen as the gold standard. But I remember in 2020 when Joni put up you may even remember this, put up a Trump ad in the final week or week and a half before Election Day in 2020. And all these DC journalists were like, oh, maybe Joni Ernst is in trouble in the Senate race. Mm-hmm. And then she I think she won by 9,
Yeah.
And so it's just, it's tight. It's tight. I hate to say it's all going to come down and turn out and be the most glib hack in Washington, but the reality is it kind of is.
Yeah.
The other poll is the New York Times Siena poll, which is showing them tied. And by the way, to your point, I wanted to mention, so Quinnipiac, this more Dem leading poll, shows her up 5 in Pennsylvania. But as I mentioned, Emerson shows Trump up 1. It shows Michigan up, the Quinnipiac, Harris up 5, and Emerson is showing Harris up 2. So yeah, to your point, no one's up 5. So anyway, back to the New York Times Siena poll, a new one just dropped, showing that while overwhelmingly viewers or voters thought that she won the debate, 67% to 40%. This is from the New York Times, quote, but she has failed so far to seize a decisive advantage in the presidential campaign as a result of it. They have them tied, 47 to 47. Before the debate, they had Trump up 2. In Pennsylvania, they're showing her up 4, but that is unchanged since early August when Harris was up 4. They have, let's see, This is interesting too. Harris's biggest problem overall is that far more voters see her as too liberal than view Trump as too conservative. So that is some good news for Team Trump. Like, she's not defining herself, and bit by bit, they are defining her.
No question about it. I mean, I think we've talked about this a lot, probably with you too, Megyn. Is the one great lie about this entire election is that somehow Donald Trump is the radical.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, from an ideological standpoint, from a policy standpoint, he is dead center in the middle of this election. I've never seen a nominee of either two parties be more in the center in terms of what their policy prescriptions are if they were to become president of the United States. She has a record of being a far leftist and has since provided absolutely no context for us to believe that she has somehow had an epiphany other than to say, well, now I don't believe any of that stuff.
Right. And how do we know that Donald Trump is at the center of the electorate? Well, because even on the things that the Democrats used to call him extreme on, like the border wall, now you've got Kamala Harris literally cutting ads featuring it.
Yeah.
Featuring it. So yeah, she is the radical. And the other part of this that is sort of easy, I wouldn't say easy, but makes the job easier. Everything Kamala said in 2019 is on tape. It's on video, you know? So like all the time that she's using avoiding interviews is an opportunity for Team Trump to run another ad of her own words out of her own mouth saying radical things.
There's one state before we wrap this up. You mentioned Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been moving over the last week to 10 days. That was a state that I think if you looked at in early August, you would say, boy, it feels like a reach both for Trump and for a Senate race with a candidate by the name of Eric Hovde. It just looked like that margin couldn't be closed, and you saw Democrats hovering around that 50 or above line, which is usually trouble when it comes to an election like this. What we've seen over the last week to 10 days is that has just absolutely collapsed. I mean, that is a now margin of error race. And a lot of advertising going on. There's a lot of advertising going on there that people don't, have a perfect window into here in Washington, D.C. or New York or anywhere else. But the voters are being subjected to the arguments in real time in a very heavy way. And to the point that we were talking about who is in the center of the electorate, what arguments are being made that resonate with that center of the electorate, it's Donald Trump's argument. It's about closing the border. It's about having a strong economy. It's about making sure that your communities are safe. What is she talking about? Donald Trump's crazy.
Joy.
But it's like it's just amorphous nothingness.
Right.
And you can see in some of these states where they haven't been subjected to the level of advertising that like a Pennsylvania has since last April. Once that has become heavier, you're seeing real ballot moves. I would not be surprised at all if Wisconsin comes very online here in the next 2 or 3 weeks as that begins to penetrate even deeper into the electorate.
Okay, so we are going to talk about how far left she is, but we'll let Holmes go because he has something else to do. Before we do that, Josh Holmes, great to see you. Thank you, fellas, for sticking around. We'll take a quick break and be right back. You don't need me to tell you that life is precious, that it could all get taken away in an instant. And this is why I want to tell you about My Patriot Supply and their 4-week emergency food kit. It's got everything your family could need during a crisis. With over 2,000 calories per day, there's enough to go around during times of social unrest, government crackdowns, or God forbid, an attack on the homeland, not to mention some kind of weather disaster. The food lasts up to 25 years, ready whenever disaster strikes. We've seen mass panic in our lifetimes before. Don't take your family's safety for granted. Right now, you can get $50 off their 4-week emergency food kit. Go to preparewithmegan.com and save $50 on your 4-week emergency food kit, and My Patriot Supply will send it over as fast as humanly possible. Get your 4-week emergency food kit now at preparewithmegan.com. Preparewithmegan.com. You know how much my family and I love our dogs, Thunder, and yes, even sweet Strudwick. I can't imagine life without them. They've got a great life and they're lucky. But some dogs are not so lucky. And that's why I'm glad to tell you about Delta Rescue, the largest no-kill, care-for-life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, plus cats and horses too. They provide all their animals with shelter, safety, and most of all, love. And they've been doing it for more than 45 years now. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions to stay open, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need. And check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love our Thunder and Strudwick, but would love it if other dogs who need love and attention and a home can find those too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Guys, we were able to find that Iowa, the Des Moines Register poll, at least for 2020, mid-September, and it showed Biden and Trump tied. So, so you guys were exactly right by that standard. He's doing better, even in Iowa, than he did that time, and he won it, by a healthy margin, as I said last time around. So interesting. Okay, there's a lot still to get through. I need another half an hour of the show, but I don't have it. Okay, just how far left is Kamala Harris? Can we find? Yeah, this clip is being circulated online. This is from 2007. Her talking about her right to intrude on the peaceful homes of gun owners. SOT 7.
Just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs.
Wait, what?
I mean,
wow.
I mean, we could play 25
being legal
clips
and
like that.
You won't walk in. I mean, what the hell?
I love how she also mentioned your house may be locked, but that's not going to stop.
Yeah, that
us.
won't stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's really incredible, Megyn. I mean, the further you go back, there's multiple iterations of Kamala Harris, depending on where she was at the stage of her career, where she's sort of like, it ebbs and flows between left-wing lunatic and person trying to triangulate for a general election. But I mean, you go back to the old stuff and she really gives you that unvarnished, uncut left-wing lunacy. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Okay, but what we're hearing from the left is that that person there will terrify people. And I don't just mean gun owners in America who should be terrified by her. I mean people like Vladimir Putin, who is going to be afraid of Kamala Harris for reasons you may not have anticipated. Take a listen to MSNBC guest Brigadier General Stephen Anderson yesterday.
But Kamala Harris would be just the opposite. Why? Because she's an inspiration. Not only is she positive and does she bring hope and optimism, but as a black woman, the product of a mixed marriage, she will inspire millions of people throughout the world. Our credibility as a nation, that we would be able to allow, our country is so great that we're allowed a woman like that to become the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. That is going to send a powerful message all over the world. People like Vladimir Putin are going to say, hey, wait a minute. These guys, they truly have a democratic country. They truly are representative. They truly are fighting for all their people. And Kamala Harris is a manifestation of that.
She's just going to look at Putin and say, I'm a role model, damn it. Pay attention to me. I'm a role model. Don't you know?
Another first.
I'm from the middle class.
Another first.
I know, Putin would be quaking in his boots because he's like, folks, representation matters. And I look at this country and I know I can't mess with them. But I mean, that's the level of brain rot that has taken over the left, where the only thing
that
military
matters is Smug, how did that guy become a brigadier general?
I mean, I think he's trying to figure out how to get on TV, and he's figured out the way.
Yeah.
You just push a left-wing line.
Just shallow pander.
There you go.
Also, I mean, we can go back to recent history when Barack Obama was elected, same sort of milestone presidency, and people made the same argument back then. How did that work with the red line in Syria? Didn't really work. How did it work when Putin invaded Crimea? Was he like, well, I can't do that because America just elected their first black president? I mean, it is elementary level brain rot. I can't believe people go on national television and make an argument that asimine.
The interracial marriage, that's what's going to bring him to his knees. He's going to be like, if it's just been a black Indian woman, but she married a white guy, I give up. I'm disarming.
Also, I would point out, America's enemies want the Democrats elected. We just found out last night, reported in The Hill, that the Trump campaign was hacked by Iran, and Iran has been trying to peddle all of this information from the Trump campaign to Joe Biden and his former staffers and campaign folks. So, I mean, I think America's enemies have been very clear with who they would like to be elected, and it's Kamala Harris.
Yeah, this should concern you if you're on the receiving end of that offer. Like, why do they want me? What is it about me that makes me so appealing to Iran? Speaking of interracial marriages, I've got to get this insanity to you. Sunny Hostin over at The View had some choice words for Brittany Mahomes, who's married to the other Mahomes guy who plays for the Chiefs. And he's apparently a very good football player. And she had the temerity to like a Trump post online, something about Trump or a Trump post. And she's been taking shit for it ever since. She wound up posting this defensive tweet saying, God, people are like, you got to settle down. Like, go be a better person and don't jump all over people for just random stuff. And here's Sunny Hostin weighing in on it yesterday, Saw 30.
It just seems to me that since she is in an interracial marriage, she should have known that to support a racist is problematic. Her children are biracial, and her family is one of the families that in the 70s could not have lived in any of Donald Trump's buildings. So it just seems to me that maybe she's just not that politically savvy, or maybe she's just not read in.
Granted,
but it's
all we know is that
problematic. That's their favorite. That's their favorite term to use when they don't actually know what it is and it's full of shit. You know, it's problematic. Well,
of course they have to insult her, right? Like, she's not read in. She's too dumb to know she's supporting this racist. But I, Sunny Hostin, am here to tell her.
It's the problem with the left. Nobody's allowed to have a differing opinion.
That's the thing.
It's like everything has to be monolithic. No, here are the talking points. This is what you have to sign on to and salute. And if you don't, you're out. Yep. I mean, it is. I don't know how anybody watches that show. I mean, I don't know if it was Steve or you, Megyn, who was watching The View that picked that up, and you were like, oh,
you always have the best View content. Like you do the hard work for the rest of America. Yeah.
They are the ones who make this show so great. They find all sorts of fun nuggets. But it's just it's like, why don't you expand that further? Let's talk about Trump doubling his support, at least according to the latest poll, with Black men. Are they also uninformed and not read in? Because if I said that, you'd be calling me a racist. But I guess you're, by implication, you can say it about a white woman, but you're also saying it about Black voters who are ready to pull the lever for Trump. They're just too dumb to realize they're voting for a racist who hates them. Listen to Sunny Hostin. She knows better.
Yeah. And then also, like, just brass tacks here. Donald Trump presided over an economy that had the lowest African-American unemployment rate in history. You know, maybe that is motivating Black voters to support Donald Trump in larger margins than they did in 2020. But I mean, like, that's just an informed opinion of your own personal situation. And according to Sunny Hostin, that doesn't matter. And I also think it's sort of remarkable, and The View is great at this. They love attacking women, just a real woman supporting women show. But like, why can't she just have her own views? Why is it about her kids or what her husband does and all of these sort of other things? Right. Why can't she just believe what she believes? You would think most independent women, and I assume The View is a show for that sort of thing, would support that sort of thing.
And from what I understand, it's not like she was out on the campaign trail. It's just that she liked to post on social media. So they've got their researchers going through the posts of people to see what they like and don't like.
Of course.
I mean, get out of here.
Well, it made news because you're not allowed to like anything Trump does. Go ahead, Smug.
Right.
That's the thing, is they have to make, they're like an in-group and an out-group. And if you do anything against the rules, you have to be put in the out-group as an example to others. That's how you keep these insane people on the same side, how you can end up with Queers for Palestine. None of the left makes sense to be working together right now. All they're put together by is this DEI framework of Trump is the next Hitler. And if any way you disagree with us, well, you're out in the cold. You're done for.
Yeah, I mean, they create this basically culture of silence, right? Where like people don't express their views, right? Because they're scared they're going to be part of the out group. And I got to tell you, Megyn, that's why Donald Trump always outperforms his polls.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good way to end the show. You guys, thank you.
There you go.
Pleasure as always. Love having you on. Thanks for coming on, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
All right, and we're back tomorrow with Maureen Callahan. We're going to be doing a deep dive on these disturbing Sean Combs Diddy allegations. Good Lord. Stay tuned for that.